Hello, everyone, and welcome back to At America TV. My name is James, one of the e-guides here at America, and we welcome our audience members joining us online. We hope that you're doing well and staying safe. At America is the United States Embassy's American Center, and our mission is to provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States. In this episode, we'll be having Knowledge at America, the beauty of poetry. But before we begin, let's break the ice with a little game. I have here a question for everyone. That question is, which poem was recited by Amanda Gorman during the inauguration of President Joe Biden? I have here several options. Is it A, The Hill We Climb, B, Praise Song for the Day, C, Of History and Hope, or D, The Gift Outright? Stay tuned until the end of this program because we'll be giving a live shout out to whoever can answer correctly on our social medias. I'd also like to let everyone know that as continuation of Ed America's 10th year anniversary celebration and for celebrating Earth Day in April, we are holding an activity along with several giveaways. Those giveaways are 5 bicycles for 5 lucky people. So if you're interested in joining, stay until the end of this program to find out more. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account. And now, without further ado, let me introduce everyone to our moderator for today, Ibu Eva Leilianti from the Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Ibu Eva, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, James. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students who joined this webinar. Hope all of you are doing well and ready to actively participate in our discussion later with Dr. Christy Maxwell from University of Louisville, Kentucky, United States. I'm Eva Lilianti. Please call me Eva. I will be chairing our today's webinar. Before we start, I would like to thank At America for holding this interesting webinar. This is a good opportunity for all of us to study, learn, discuss, as well as share our thoughts and opinions about the beauty of poetry, especially the American poetry. I'm sure many of us are familiar with the works of Edgar Allan Poe, Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, Walt Whitman, Robert Frost, T.S. Eliot, and many others. However, in this occasion, we will discuss the contemporary American poetry. As for Indonesian poets, we are all familiar with the beauty of Sapardi Djoko Damono's poems, such as Aku Ingin. Um, the line is like this one. Aku ingin mencintaimu dengan sederhana. I want to love you simply. Dengan isyarat yang tak sempat disampaikan awan kepada hujan, yang menjadikannya tiada. In sign not express clouds the rain which make them evanescence. Or Wes Rendra's poem such as permintaan or request, wahai rembulan yang pudar, oh faded moon, jenguklah jendela kekasihku, please visit my beloved's window. Ia tidur sendirian, she sleeps alone, hanya berteman hatinya yang rindu, accompanied only with her longing heart. This shared language beauty, whether it is in forms of its sense or sound, in our everyday practices is often used to amuse and channel the listeners, the readers, the spectators, interlocutors, or even to criticize the hegemonic groups. We will learn and discuss this later in our discussion. But before I introduce you to our speaker, let me share the rules of thumb of this webinar first. Participant can ask question by writing on the comment box or chat box of all at America social media platform as well as the Zoom's chat box. Question will be answered after the speaker explanation. You may ask in English or in Bahasa Indonesia. Please check out your audio if you experience difficulties. Check your audio setting or try to log off and rejoin. This usually solves the problem. Before our speaker begins her presentation, allow me to read her short bio. Dr. Christy Maxwell is an assistant professor of English in the University of Louisville, Kentucky, United States. She is also the author of 7 books of poetry, My, published by Saturalia Press, Bright and Heartless by Asata Press, Realm 64 by Asata Press, Hush Session by Saturalia Books, Free by Asata, That Our Eyes Be Rick by Saturalia, and Plan or Plank by Horseless Press. Her scholarly publications include articles on experimental writing practices and the hybrid writing of Jenny Boley and Anne Carson, and her research interests involve theories of representation and difference, textual performance, and the body. A former Elliston Poetry Fellow, she received a PhD in creative writing and literature, along with a graduate certificate in women's gender and sexuality studies from the University of Cincinnati and an MFA or Master in Fine Arts in creative writing from University of Arizona, where she served as editor-in-chief of Sonora Review. She is an affiliate faculty member of the Women's Gender Sexuality Studies Department. Dr. Maxwell will discuss the beauty of American poetry, especially by focusing as well as by reciting three poems from Kiki Patricino's political poems, Claire Wamen Holmes, if I pronounce it correctly, B, and Aribania's Some Kind of We. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Christy Maxwell. Dr. Christy, Dr. Maxwell, the screen is yours.
Hello. Hi, Eva. Thank you for that introduction and that poem. What a beautiful poem. I'm so happy that I got to hear that this morning. Thank you. All right, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint to go along with the talk this morning. And I thank you all for deciding to spend your time in this way. I love talking about poetry. Okay. I'm getting a little echo on my end. So today I'm going to be talking about contemporary American poetry and social engagement. I appreciate the invitation to talk with you all about contemporary American poetry today as we kick off International Poetry Month. I've selected 3 poems, a formal poem, a prose poem, and a free verse poem centered on social engagement to share with you in our brief time together. And I hope to give you a sense of the range of compositional strategies used by contemporary American poets. The first piece, Kiki Petrosino's political poem, appears in her 3rd collection, Witch Wife, published in 2017, which continues her exploration of racialization and racial dynamics in the US. Political poem, with lines borrowed from Martin Luther King Jr. and John Wilkes Booth. The country is not what it was. I miss the arc of green fireworks in spring and the moral bellies of lake trout rolled in flour. This universe is so dry, star sharp. Each day my arms grow long, but never reach the freedom shore. The line of it bends like a fern in rain. Birds chatter towards justice, towards justice, towards justice. Their beaks click together like dolls. I study the arc of my own slithering chin as it bends along the waterway of my phone. The moral is a glass canoe lodged in a long but finite block of news. I say, this universe is not worth my hard-earned glitter. This universe is not what I dreamed. Wings careen in the blue towards justice, but I watch from the dirt, my feet burning. I long, but I can't measure my longing, can't trace the arc of my tears as they depart my head. Now the moral autobus kneels like a camel at the curb. It bends, and I climb into the sinking dark. I climb, it bends. This forced union is not what I've loved. What's a universe? A tingle up my leg, the stars? Once I dreamed a moral constellation of strawberry seeds arranged towards justice. But I don't know how to read the stars, the arc of federal dust that governs me. My body is long, but not quite free. I go along, I get along, but I'm not quite free. My sweet, harmless body, it bends so you can't identify my color, just the arc of my spine, which could be anyone's, in the cool universes of love. So let my body move towards justice and away from countries. Let it curl up like the moral fortune still inside the cookie, the moral border dissolving in cold milk. Won't be long. Will everything we know collapse towards justice? Bodies, berries, beaks, barns, with all of it, will all of it bend and wash under the moon? It feels like this universe is someone else's calculus, the arc of a moonbeam in the moral firmament. It bends and the light is long but dimming. Such universes. Here, I draw the arc of two words, just is. Can everyone hear me all right? Yeah, good, okay, all right. So in political poem, Petrosino puts two forms into contact, the sestina and the telestic. The telestic is a form popularized over the last decade or so by Terence Hayes' homage to Gwendolyn Brooks, the golden shovel, and a form Petrosino also deploys in the serial poem The Mulatress in her second book, Hymn for the Black Terrific. The sestina, an imported Provençal form, is distinct for its 39 lines and the braided patterning of its repeated end words, which I put on the screen for you there. So you can kind of look how there's kind of a weaving pattern. The numbers signify the end words. So the last word comes up, and then the first word goes down, and the second to last word comes up, and the second word comes down. So it kind of creates like that braid, right? Okay. So the 39 lines and the braided patterning of the sestina are reminiscent of helix-shaped DNA and thus well positioned for engaging questions of inheritance, including cultural inheritance, only one of the investments in Petrosino's poems. The intertextual component of Petrosino's political poem, and Hayes' The Golden Shovel, allows the poets to metaphorize inheritance, making the language of predecessors part of the poem's very DNA, metabolized so fundamentally in the poem's structures. The telestic poem moves in two directions simultaneously, horizontally and vertically. The vertical line moves down the right side or outer edge of the poem, and thus conditions the poem's turns, its progress, an important word for this poem, here signified by the line breaks at every encounter. The vertical line in political poem is Martin Luther King Jr.'s line, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice," which condenses a longer passage from a sermon from the 19th century abolitionist minister Theodore Parker, and which President Obama famously had woven into a rug in the Oval Office, as it is woven into the poem via the braided repetition of the sestina. So here you can see a closer look at that vertical line bolded for emphasis. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And that's the line that Kiki's horizontal lines are encountering as the poem progresses. There's tension between the vertical line's forward gaze to a future one hopes for, and the horizontal line's gaze backwards to a past that no longer is, amplifying the sense that things are at odds, thus the speaker trying to, but not yet succeeding in, reaching the freedom shore. And now we'll look at the vertical line again in the second stanza, where it has been recycled and remixed due to the sestina's demands. Towards justice, the arc of it bends the moral, long, but universe is. I would argue that this recycling and distortion is part of the poem's political messaging, an embedded statement on the ways in which Martin Luther King's words are so often taken out of context and distorted to suit another's agenda.